Hello, fellow hams. Well, this is my next project. A local ham upgraded and gave me his old Kenwood TS 440 SAT. That's right, it's the one with the antenna tuner. He said occasionally the display would just go blank. I asked him if it had dots on it and he said yeah. So that's a known problem with these, and has some known solutions. So I just now put it on the bench, powered it up, and it looks like it comes up okay at first, at least. The dots on the Kenwood TS440S, there's a couple of different causes for it. There's a series of switching diodes on the RF board that switch in the different circuits for the different bands. And sometimes those diodes get leaky and you'll get dots on just one band. And I haven't gone through all the bands. Yeah, it looks like they're switching okay, so it's probably not those diodes. The other thing is there are 5 voltage controlled oscillators in the PLL circuit in this guy. And number 5 is in a sealed metal can, and they used glue that they poured in to freeze all the components. So you wouldn't get noise if you tapped on the radio or if you were mobile. Microphonics is what it's called. You tap on a capacitor and it generates a difference in its capacitance, and it's like a microphone. Well, that glue that they used, it was called Sony Bond. It turns out that it liked to soak water up out of the air and become conductive eventually. And you don't want a conductive mass spread out across something like a VCO in a PLL circuit. So that's a very well-known issue with these. And it looks like, from what his description is, that's probably what's going on. It's just cutting out occasionally. It's just getting to that point where it's conductive enough to cause problems. That's not fun to take care of. You have to dig all that glue out of the circuit bit by bit, completely including the residue, and clean it up with Q-tips and alcohol, and it's going to take a lot of effort if that's the case. So haven't opened it up yet, just powered it up, thought I'd show it to you. I think there's supposed to be a light behind the meter, which we don't have, so we'll have to take care of that too. But anyway, this is my next repair, so off and running. I'll after I open it up, if the glue is present, I'll show you some shots of that so you can see what I'm talking about. And then I'll show you the cleaning, or maybe what I'm doing to clean it, and the result at the end, and then we'll get the radio on the air and see how it performs. Alright, well, we've got it opened up, and yes, it does have the glue problem. This is the IF board, which is conveniently mounted on a frame that just angles over. All the cables are right down there in the gap in the hinge, so you can just angle the IF board out to get to the PLL board for making adjustments. This is the PLL board. And this is VCO5, and inside of there is the glue. I'm going to try my best to get a shot of that with the camera, so hang on a moment. Well, it's about the best I think I can do with this camera. Hopefully it's clear enough. We're looking down inside of VCO5, and right here there's brown glue coating a bunch of components right there, and that's the glue I've got to remove from between all the components and the board and everything. So got the desoldering iron heating up. I'm going to have to remove this metal shell, and then I'm going to get the heat gun out and try heating the glue up and working through a magnifying lens and a tiny little bitty flat blade screwdriver, and just sort of work on getting that glue out of there carefully and clean it all out. Then we'll put this all back together. Put it back in the radio and power it up and see if it's still stable. Hopefully I don't break it. But if this is not causing the problem now, it definitely will cause it eventually. And from the description from the previous owner, I'm certain that that's the problem. So you can see my fingertip here. You can see how small that is. And I've got older eyes, so it's going to be reading glasses and a magnifying lens and a lot of patience. Now, here we go. Well, here's an update on the Kenwood. Still has the same problem. 160, 80, and 40 meters after it's been on for about 5 minutes, the VCOs unlock. So this is the RF board out of the bottom, which is a major pain to remove. It's got a ton of connections. Wiring harness cables are routed around it, and it's all packed in tight. And these two coaxes go up through to the PLL board. So there's some things that are not even connected here. They're actually soldered on. There's a shield. It was here over the RF switching circuitry, which is soldered to a standoff, and that was loose. So that's one potential ground issue. But the leaky diodes, the infamous leaky diodes, are in here, and these look like they might have been replaced. I've seen a lot of fresh solder pads underneath. I've been going around the bottom of the board meticulously looking for and correcting cracked solder joints, and I'm finding quite a few where you'll see the pin come up through the solder and there'll be a little ring around it, and when you look at it under a magnifying lens you can see that it's actually cracked. It's from thermal expansion and contraction. When they wave soldered this board, they didn't get a lot of solder in there, so the factory solder is extremely thin, and I think any stress at all, it just cracks and gives up. So corrected a lot of those solder points. In here, let me turn the preview around. I'll see if I can get this to where you can see it. Yeah. All through here is that brown glue again, through 4 identical circuits. And probing it with a DVM with the radio on, just putting the tip in the glue itself, I read 2.5 volts, so it's conductive. So here we go. I've got probably another 2 hours of digging glue out of here and out from between component leads. Then we'll reassemble the whole thing and see if that solves the problem. Alright, we're looking at the bottom of the radio with the RF board installed, and I've been testing and probing and cleaning, and I think I finally got it. At least I got it where it's operational. It's not perfect yet, but the root of the problem is definitely the brown glue. In here are the 4 VCOs on the RF board. This one down here does 160 through 40 meters, 20 meters. Yeah, and on 1510. I started chiseling away at the glue, cleaning it out from the component leads where I could. I made a little pick. I had this really fine tipped tool here, and I bent it into a curve so I could hook under the glue and pull pieces of it up and pull it out with needle nose, and just pecked away at it and pecked away at it and pecked away at it. And then I thought, I've got it mostly away from the transistors leads, because that was the only one that was not locking up. The others are locking up okay, but that one's not. So I thought I'd power it up and test it. It locks up, just like it should. It stays on 160 and 80 and 40 meters. So I got enough of the glue out of there to eliminate whatever voltage instability it was causing on this VCO here. I got the shield off. I was just checking the voltages here for the diodes to make sure we don't have leaky diodes, and we don't. Good, so I can put that shield back on. So I'm going to reassemble it. I really need to get in here and pull more of that glue out and just really work on cleaning this section up. But that's hours of tedious work. Right now the radio is staying stable on all the bands, or appears to fire it up and let it run for an hour or so and make sure it stays, the VCOs stay locked in. And I went ahead and adjusted their voltages too. These are the 4 adjustment cans here. There's a resistor over here on the PLL board that's your test point. You need to adjust these at certain frequencies to where they are at exactly 2.5 volts. And they were all off by a ways, so we got that all lined up. So put the shield back on, put the case back on, power it up, and see if it stays locked in on the lower bands for an hour or so. And if so, we'll go on the air with it for a while and play with it a bit, see how it behaves. Success! Radio has been on for about an hour. Its PLLs have stayed locked in. Let me turn that down. Just talked to that guy up there in Michigan. It's putting out full power. He said the audio sounded great. So, and I don't know if you can tell, but I got a meter light now. So right now, it's fully functional. And I think I'm going to go and put it up there in the shack and use it on the air for a week or so and play with it and see how it runs. I might keep this radio. My other radio is an ICOM 745, which is fine, but this one does AM transmit and has a wider filter for AM receive, which are 2 things that I kind of like. And it might be easier to interface to my Arduino box for doing digital modes too. So I'm going to play around with it for a while, I think. Hook it up and use it for a week. I might keep it. Anyway, thanks for riding along with the repair work. And it's not really done yet. I still need to get more of that glue out of those VCOs. And I might save that for a lazy day here in the winter and spend a few hours on it now and then and eventually get it all cleaned up.
Lima November again. November 1, Lima November. November 1, Lima November. Here he is. November 1, Lima November. You are number 333. United WB2ZAB. Check 66. Mike Delta Charlie, Roger. Roger, number 440, uniform. November 1, Lima November. Check 64, North Carolina. Got it all. Thanks so much. Good luck.